And tonight I'm coming because of the fact that, and I think that it takes a little while to understand bullying. I didn't understand it until I was faced with it as a shopper the day I went to school. And I've seen more and more, and I've heard more and more. I mean, I can't even get away from it nowadays. Every time I turn around, it's on the news, it's somebody calling me and telling me to read this article, giving me this article, which is good. But I don't think a lot of us totally understand about bullying. And if I took a rubber band and I popped him in the back of the neck about 4 times, and then I flipped the pin in his ear, I think a lot of things, children will be children, don't get me wrong. But I think the children will be children gets gone too long. It overbears the child that's being the victim of his prank or his whatever. So what I've got tonight is, and I brought that before last time about that fighting back thing. And y'all had changed it when I got here. But as you look at, and maybe y'all got more than I don't know. I don't know, but maybe there's more in this book than this right here on page 36. Your bullying policy is what I was trying to get to. You have a bullying policy in here which has 5 offenses, and there has no direction from a progressive disciplinary for it. And there's nothing that I have found that shows, other than, I'll read this, this is level C in your book, which you have an A, B, and C. And bullying is on level B, which I find really, I think it should be on level C.
Do we have copies of the handbook that we could have?
I thought I had brought it.
See, I don't know what else you got, but this is what I was given by the principal. And when I saw the bullying policy in it, and it has 5 offenses, with the last 2 repeating itself. The first one is a principal, parent, student conference, and/or suspension or corporal punishment for the first offense of bullying. The second is 1 day in school, after school, out of school, suspension or corporal punishment. And you can read it for yourself. It goes on down. So y'all have another policy?
No, excuse me just a moment. I don't think that's what you asked for, Mr. Concord. You're
No.
asking for our policy.
I'm asking for the handbook like she's got. This is the policy right here.
I'm
But
sorry,
what
I
is
didn't mean to
this?
interrupt you. I want us to be on the same
I done
page.
wore mine out.
That's the offense levels and where they fall, A, B, C, or D, and the consequences for each one.
That's what I have right there.
What page is it
36.
Pass me that. Jim reads this quick.
on? All right.
Yeah, that's.
You say whatever you
All
want.
right, go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I think what Linda and I were both concerned is what are our schools going to do with a habitual bully? And I think the principals know them, the teachers know them, you know, and they're in our schools. And that's a difficult decision, and I think that's something the school board eventually has got to address. And you know, and set a policy. You know, if you have a child who has and again, what troubles me, at least troubled me, what I've seen so far, is there has not been good documentation of bullying incidents. When you have 7 reports of a child by, you know, parents, grandparents, nieces and nephews, this is the case we know about. 7 reports and no documentation. That's not good. And at some point, whether it be 5 offenses or whatever, we've got to consider removing that child from the general population for the safety and well-being of the rest of the kids. That's a hard decision, but I remember one of my favorite movies is Lean on Me, which was a true story about Joe Clark and how he dealt with the school system in New Jersey when he went into it. He had 2,500 kids, and the first thing he did, he expelled 300 the first day. Those were the drug dealers, the ones that were using drugs, the ones that were physically violent to other kids. And the first thing he did, he expelled 300 kids the first day. And he said, a bad apple will ruin the whole bunch. And I'm not saying we have 300 kids in McGee School, which is the only one I'm familiar with, but we might have 25 that need to go to an alternative school and be removed from the general population so the rest of our kids can learn in safety and with a clear conscience. And I know that's a tough decision. I mean, I'm an educator. I've taught, I was at 28 years in college teaching. Now I'm teaching at community college and high school level. So I'm a teacher at heart. That's what I do. And I know how hard it is to say, okay, we've got to remove this kid from the general population of students. But if they are threatening other kids, if they're threatening physical violence on other kids, I don't see any other, what do we do? I mean, there comes a point, don't you think, where we have to do that.
I will agree with you on this, Mr. Bennett. I was an educator, I'm in banking, but documentation.
Documentation, absolutely. And that'll help Mr.
And I'm not
Jones,
laughing.
Mr. Jones or whoever the lawyer is, when we have to go and take a child and put them in an alternative school and say, okay, we have 7 incidents of repeated bullying by this child. Get the parents of those kids involved, though, real quickly. I would say that's another thing. Because some of these kids, the parents don't know that their kids are acting out in that way,
This
right?
is an instance that, when I had this one child, and I heard him at the dinner table, I heard it discussed about the kids, and I heard my son showing my grandson how to pop him in the head. I didn't like that, but then what else can you do is what they were saying, and that's before that rule was changed. And then I decided, and then I just walked in on this. I did not come there on purpose to bully. I promise you, I came there to get my grandchild to go to Dennis, and I don't know, here I am. But after I called Joe, and I called Larry, and I got here, and it was like, bam. My grandson came to the restaurant with his parents, and Amy said, tell Lenny what you're a bully. It's like everybody's got one. Said, tell her what the bully did today. And I was like, hey, don't tell me no more. I don't want to hear it. And he said he wants to be my friend. That was more shocking to me than the fact that I found the bully. It took one person with a figure of authority to tell this child that he wasn't going to do it again. Now that's why I put 2 and 2 together. This child is trying to be my son's friend, and they're getting along like friends now. And he was the one that was popping him, kicking him,